The Baltimore Ravens are now looking for a new head coach after finishing one missed field goal away from the postseason. An 18-year run for John Harbaugh is now done. But should it be? I don't think so. Let's talk about the Ravens making this move at this time. So, we kind of talked about it the other day. I greatly dislike this move for the Baltimore Ravens. I understand it a little bit, I guess, because it hasn't been the best of times over there, right? Like Baltimore, I was on radio out here in Calgary. We had Ross Tucker on, and he was saying if Lamar had won the MVP like a lot of people wanted him to last year, he'd have as many MVP trophies as playoff wins. So they haven't been able to get over that hump out in Baltimore. But this felt like they were looking for an excuse to get out of the Harbaugh business. And I understand. Maybe there was a bit of a power struggle going on with Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. And maybe there was a bit of a disagreement on how this team should have been run at various different points. But I don't know how you put this season on the coach. So maybe it's the straw that broke the camel's back. I guess you can understand that. I don't know how you put this season, though, on John Harbaugh. When you look at what they went through this year with all the injuries that they had on the defensive side of the football, making them a complete liability on that side. And then your star quarterback, your franchise quarterback, goes down with an injury. The fact that you had all of those things happening, you go into a win or go home game on Sunday Night Football, you continue to deal with injuries on the defensive side. And even with all of that, you are still a makeable field goal away from playing in the playoffs this weekend. Now, that probably, looking at it now, that probably doesn't just save his job. They would have had to have probably beat Houston at least in the wild card round to keep Harbaugh employed. But I don't know what coaching would have done to get this team in a different situation. And I guess the one that you can point to is not using Derrick Henry to close out that New England Patriots game late in the season, another issue on Sunday night. But like if Likely squeezes that football and what everyone else in the world thought was a catch ended up as a catch, we're not having this discussion. I think there are so many little moments throughout the season that I don't really think you can put on the coach that end up putting Baltimore where they are at this particular time. So I don't agree with it. I really don't. I think this is a very good coach. I think it's a bad sign when you fire a coach and he immediately everyone's most sought after prize. That feels bad, you know? And now a lot of talk about the Giants now with him. I wonder if Miami pops into this conversation and what kind of search goes on there. Like, does he get more control of a roster? Also, with the GM vacancy happening out in Miami at this particular time too. So he has a lot of different options. And for Baltimore, I do wonder what's next now. We're obviously very new into this. Do they go the defensive route? And it's Flores. Munkin, I think, has done an okay job of calling plays for this group and obviously has some high-level coaching experience in college football. So does he just slide over into the head coaching role and gets a little bit more control of what this football team is? Again, I don't think they're that far away. When you look at, obviously Cleveland's a non-factor in this division right now. The Bengals have a lot of problems still, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they had a very horseshoey season to get through to this point. So I don't look at this division as that far away. If you get the right guy in there, I think it's off and running. Like it's funny because they just fired the most sought after head coach. And this is, I think, easily the best head coaching job that has become available now in this run. All due respect to the Raiders, but this is obviously the best head coaching job that has become available right now in the NFL. So I'm very curious to see where they end up going. In the chat on Twitch, Uncle Crashy, bad decisions. Colts retaining Chris Ballard, keep the coach, but the GM kept giving him the wrong tools when the right tools went down, and years of missing the playoffs fall on his shoulders. Two too many coaches and players have come through to not look at the GM at that point. I think that is an interesting one. I think Daniel Jones having the success that he had gives him a stay of execution, right? But like Ballard is probably a 2-4 start away from losing his job. Like they have to come out of the gates firing next season. And I think for Ballard, he could kind of explain away that, well, look, we missed on the quarterback. Yes, that's my bad. But we got the right quarterback in, and you could see how the team took off, right? Like we won 8 games with Daniel Jones. So obviously I haven't done that bad of a job. Although, again, I think there was a lot of smoke and mirrors that was happening with that. But you're right. Like, when you look at the amount of coaches that have come through, when you look at the amount of different opportunities that guys have had, and also, like, okay, we had the wrong quarterback there, that's kind of your fault too. So I think that he is on very, very thin ice out there. So I would agree with that. I wasn't surprised they made that decision, but I think if you could place a wager for first GM fired going into next season, I think Ballard would be pretty high on the list. The one that I still don't get, and we talked about it the other day, but Joe Shan, I don't know how that guy has a job still with the Giants. When you look at the atrocious roster that he has put together, and just the only good players that they have were the obvious no-brainer picks. And again, you have to make your layups, but he hasn't even made a mid-range jump shot outside of that. So that's the one that has really surprised me, that change has not happened. So I don't know. I'm Uncle Crashy now in the chat. 8 starts with the 5th overall QB. Was he the wrong quarterback? With like Anthony Richardson, that was Danny Dimes did better, but AR could still develop into something. Yeah, like the Anthony Richardson one. It's just that team got good, I think, quicker than they were expecting, and they were kind of hoping he could just fall right in. But you see, like, he didn't have the college experience to just be able to pick up and, okay, off you go. I wouldn't give up on him just yet, but I think his next opportunity is going to come elsewhere. Like they are obviously over it with this guy, and they are obviously in a position where they're not looking to develop a quarterback now. Like they want to go. And we just talked about the pressure on Ballard. So he's not looking to develop a quarterback. Honestly, like we'll talk about the offseason preview here in a little bit. I get people are excited about the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft, but you look at a couple of teams that need a little bit more than just QB. I wouldn't mind if one of those teams took a shot at a Richardson and just like, hey, let's just see what we can do here. And if it sucks, then we're going to have a chance to draft a quarterback anyway. So I think he's an interesting case for a few teams in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Danny Dimes, to that point, or Indiana Jones, as people started calling him, I don't know if you can go into the season with him as the quarterback either, because of the Achilles injury. And, right, it was Achilles. I'm not making that up. Either way, with the injury that he is dealing with, and now trying to come back from that, I don't think that can just be plan A and there's no plan B behind it. I think it sucks for him because he was off to that great start. He has to kind of be viewed as, at best, a 1B in a quarterback battle, but probably the backup there out in Indianapolis, I would say. And yeah, fair. Yeah, again, it is a bit of a flawed roster with the Colts. That is for sure. And maybe not as flawed as it looked in the past, but there are some issues there, 100%. The other coaching change that came down in the NFL came down today. The Miami Dolphins have moved on from Mike McDaniels. And this one, the timing of it kind of surprises me a little bit here. After going over everything for a couple of days, like, I get you have to do your due diligence and look over everything, but it's not like the Dolphins have been playing competitive games for the last little bit and everyone's just been laser focused on getting into the playoffs. I feel like you could have started your evaluations on some of these things a little bit earlier than just the last couple of days. I'm sure exit interviews and everything like that probably have something to do with it too, but I think you can go over a lot of what was happening with this coach and figured this out before today. So the timing of it surprised me a little bit. This one I understand. I do think, again, you are letting go of a very talented coach if you're the Miami Dolphins, but I understand this one because of how tough it has been there. And you have a coach that is supposed to be an offensive guru, and the offense was a bit of a problem. And again, like the Tua injury throws every wrench into it. And the Tua injury concerns and just him turning into a bit of a different player, a much different player coming out of the concussion issues and everything like that. And then maybe also just not being as good as it looked like he might be in that wild year. And we talked about the Tua situation when he got benched, but like you could even see when that offense was just putting up video game numbers, a lot of like the deep passes to Tyreek Hill that turned into big plays, a lot of that was Hill being able to adjust to an underthrown or a poorly thrown football, making a play, and then still being able to create off of that. But I was thinking about this, and maybe like I pointed at a number of excuses for why Harbaugh should have stayed with the Ravens, and now I think I'm looking for reasons why McDaniel shouldn't be with the Miami Dolphins. But I think sometimes I fall into the trap, and maybe it's kind of easy to, but when we look at a coach and they get fired, it's like, okay, well, I mean, look at the roster. It's not the coach's fault. And in this one, I don't think it's entirely the coach's fault. I think Tua turned into a different player, and you had some problems. But also, you had a really good roster with a lot of offensive talent on it. And Tua's not going anywhere, right? Like, that contract is huge, and they are in a bit of need of cap space there anyway, I believe. I have it down here somewhere. Where is Miami on the... Oh, no, they have no cap space. Sorry. Yeah, they have negative cap space right now, and getting rid of Tua would actually give them less with the penalties and everything that would go on top of it. So if this coach can't make this situation work, then he has to go. Because this is the situation. It's one of those, like, you can't fire every player. Sometimes you do just have to play with the cards that you are dealt. And talked about it with Stefanski the other day. Like, no. Was coaching the biggest problem in Cleveland? It wasn't. I don't think, even a little bit, I don't think coaching was the biggest problem there. But sometimes you do have to elevate your roster. And I think in Miami, McDaniel, a really good offensive mind, but teams figured them out. There wasn't enough adjustments to it, and that's a bit of a cliche, but there wasn't enough adjustments to it. And now, like, this is the situation there. So yeah, you can criticize the roster, specifically the quarterback, but he's going to be the quarterback. You have to get the most out of him, or get the most out of Quinn Ewers and all of those guys around it. But Tua's sticking around. So this is the situation you have to make the best of. So again, were Miami's issues all on the coach? I don't think so. But the coach is the most correctable in this spot. Again, I think he's going to be a highly sought after one. Like, Raider fan here would love it. I think, like, you look on down the list, like he would make sense as that offensive mind who can try to come in and get the most out of a situation, whether it's in Tennessee trying to get a lot out of Cam Ward or some of those other guys, the Giants with Jackson Dart, if Harbaugh says no. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think this is still a good coach, but it wasn't working in this spot now. They are in a tricky spot because like Stefanski maybe helps out more offensively, but none of the other offensive coaches that are out there are, I think, better than the guy that you just had. So maybe different is enough, but I don't think anyone out there is better than the dude they just fired, and I don't think they're in a spot to be bringing in a defensive coach and just try to all of a sudden just 3 yards in a cloud of dust this thing rolling on with Miami, given a lot of the offensive firepower that they have out there. We got Conrad in the Twitch chat. What's up, Conrad? Hopefully the Circle K was kind to you as a Calgary sporting tradition continued over the holiday season again. But always great to have Conrad from Game Over Calgary and a number of other ventures in the chat with us here today. What are you guys thinking? Well, we got Crashy's thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts situation. Am I out to lunch like McDaniel? Am I just hyping him up too much? Am I hyping Harbaugh up a little bit too much? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the chat. And yeah, we can keep talking about it there. Conrad, glad that it was such a good time. Did that Schultz and Pugh get shocking eliminated? Or did the game that Schultz and Pugh got shockingly eliminated in? Yeah, that seemed to get, like, that got not just like local hockey people buzz. Like that was getting a little bit beyond into kind of the general hockey conversation. So awesome, you got to do that game, and yeah, it was a noteworthy tournament that happened out here in Calgary. Hey, would love this if you guys could share this video with some of your football fan friends. If you want to just taunt a Ravens fan for them making the wrong decision about their coach, hit that share button, and or however you could share this, do that, and it would be greatly appreciated on my part.